Since Bill decided to bring back this group after a pause of almost 12 years, it was an honor that he asked me to be the first speaker. And it's an honor for me to be here in front of everybody. Are we ready to have a little fun?
Absolutely.
All right, let's get going. I'm pretty passionate about this topic because I myself have experienced it. It is something that probably at some level, at some time, every professional has experienced. How do they value their services and their work? There's also a lot of psychology behind it that I love that I'm going to introduce in this presentation as well. Feel free to take notes. Feel free to interrupt. Feel free to ask questions because I love an interactive presentation. It's a lot more fun for me. All right. Raise your hands after you read those all if you've ever experienced any of those. See what I'm saying? At some point in time, we all have experienced some form of doubt, some form of hesitation, some form of insecurity, etc., about valuing our own work. So we're going to deep dive into this a little bit more. Self-awareness, if we have any of those things going on, is going to be a key player in getting through it and beyond it. So let me try to define that a little bit more. A lot of us feel that thing, and then we allow the emotion to kick in, and then we allow it to stop us or to scare us too much to work through it. So we can have that come up, but I invite you all to take a different approach, reframe it, and be like, I'm aware that this is coming up. I'm just aware it's coming up. So if I'm aware of that, I took that rejection personally, then now I can start to break it down a little bit and say, okay, why? Why did I take that rejection personally? And then you could give yourself some information, feedback. The brain wants feedback when you introduce questions. So now you go into more logical responses instead of staying stuck in the emotionality. This is reaction and emotionality. We want to, as professionals, try to really come more from facts and logic. Efficiency can only come after skill building, a process that is clumsy and repetitive by design. That is key. When we all are learning something new, we want to venture into a different avenue of our profession. We want to start a new business. We want to expand a new business. And it really applies to all things in our life. Learning creates a slight stressor. This is true for academia too. It creates a slight stressor in the brain, which engages the brain to allow us to clumsily make our way through something so that we learn it. And then it stays cemented in the brain. It's like if somebody just gave you the answers, you would learn nothing and you would forget it. So can we allow ourselves, as we are starting or continuing our profession, to be clumsy and work it out and be okay with that? Because every time a child falls when it's learning to walk, it gets back up again, doesn't it? And every time it falls again, it gets back up again, doesn't it? And every time it falls again, it gets back up again, doesn't it? That's how it is learning the process of doing it, and it's creating neural networks in their brain that says, oh yeah, legs, you can stay up a little bit longer this time. So isn't he guaranteed or she guaranteed success to eventually walk? Of course. So that's the same with us as we are, again, going into our professional careers, expanding our careers, trying something new, etc. All right. I love this topic. Would anybody like to read that for me? Take a shot. Go ahead.
What is perceived worth? The value we place on our expertise,
our knowledge, our experience, our contributions, our services. Our services is quiz.
I love it that way, though. It was intentional.
Mm.
Because isn't that what this is all about? How do we value our services? Because actually, some people, and we're going to get into this in another slide, who are very confident about their services and competent, the two together, they'll be like, our services. They'll be bold, right? Some of those who are having some of the issues that we're talking about, trying to value yourself, may be a little softer. Oh, our services. Do you see the difference? Our services are. So we're going to work on how to come up with confidence and get past some of these blockages that we have. I love perception. You got to remember when you're working with a client, okay, they are perceiving you and you are perceiving them, and you both have separate realities. So it's really important that when you're meeting with a client, remember I talked about awareness? What are you aware of? Can you quickly scale up a body language? The eyes, are they giving you good contact? What about their tone of voice? Is it high? Is it low? Is it fast? Are they listening? Are you listening on the other end? So perception is really a gift for us if we stay flexible and open to the awareness of what's going on from my point of view in me versus what's going on with that person's, that client's point of view in them. And then how can I find the equilibrium in the middle? I love this. For a while, I was hired to run a program for young adults and kids that were also in their senior year of high school to educate them about how to go out into the world to acquire a job. They had no skills whatsoever. And one of the things that I would tell them is to take the pressure off. And as business people, we could feel this too, to take the pressure off that all the power is in the client. It's not. You're interviewing the client. You're interviewing possible employers. It's not only about they're going to size you up and decide whether or not they want to have you or not. And then what? So that's a powerless mindset. You might go into a client's house, for example, and you might start talking to them. And then right away, by the way they're talking to you, by the way the environment is set up, maybe it smells. I don't know. But there could be something inside of you that's just not feeling it. Just not feeling it. Just like when you go to interview for a job, it looked like it was great. And then I show up, it's in a back alley. I'm like, I'm not going to go work in a back alley every day. So that's why the power is always inside of you. It's never outside of you. I like these functions. They're kind of simple. Does it work? How does it make you feel? How does it affect your identity or status? Out of those three, which one do you think is the most important, that people gravitate towards the most? Any guesses?
2.
Emotional?
Yes. You guys are great. Absolutely. Because I just kind of touched on it a little bit. If you're not feeling that connection, you can talk a good game. You could dress to the nines, but if you're not feeling that connection with somebody, it's going to put up a barrier between you and them immediately. So clients often purchase emotional relational value just as much as technical expertise. Yeah, because they're trusting, they want to trust you. And that's where the emotionality comes in. Has anybody felt any of these before? Show of hands if you have. Okay. Yeah. They're pretty heavy stuff, aren't they? When you're reading that, that's kind of heavy stuff. It's all in a negative form, and it's a lot to put on yourself. It's like walking around with bricks on your shoulders. That's really a lot of stuff that we put on ourselves. So think about that. I don't know if you remember the very second slide, but there was a background image of a diagram that I created where there was all these externals, people, places, things, and situations. I write about that in my book. And in the center, there was very large you, the word you. So I'm saying that because all of those things that we are making up, we are making this up because they haven't become real yet. They haven't really happened. That is going on in our ego. And we can also be allowing our externals to affect that. So I show up to a client's professional business site because this is where we were holding our meeting, and they greet me with a smirk on my face, and they have a, low tone of voice, and they don't seem very friendly. And then I go into, already, they're judging me. Already, oh my God, I'm not going to be successful here. It's not going to work. So that's a lot to put on yourself, and we're going to work through, as we proceed, some tools to help us to not do that. But if you can also here's a question. If you can also put all that energy into those thoughts, can you put energy into other thoughts that are more positive and reframe? Absolutely. Absolutely. How do we value our time? Well, how do we value our thoughts? They're equally all important. Many professionals undercharge not because they lack value, but because they underestimate it. So who's supposed to estimate your value? We are. We know how much time and energy and passion goes into it. And oh my God, can we actually value passion? Yes. So I'm going to tell you a quick little story. So I actually thought I was going to have a full career in art. I was going to own my own advertising agency and have a few people underneath me, and I was going to be happy. However, it was interesting that I ended up instead being an art teacher for about 15 years in the community centers and park and recs. And I ended up doing a lot of murals and interior design, and was hired both commercial and residential, which had nothing to do with the advertising original thing. And so when I started painting murals, floor to ceiling, takes a lot of time. And I was hesitant to value my worth and my art skills, because in my brain, people are not going to pay that for painting. I'm sure some of you can relate to that kind of thought process, right? And so I used to undervalue my work, and I underestimated how much time it took and how much I loved what I did, because the end product was just phenomenal. And all of my clients were always so pleased and surprised that I could create what I could create in that amount of time, exactly what they were looking for. But I underestimated the value of it. And it has prices on you over time that starts to affect you when you're putting a lot of your passion, time, and effort into it, but then you're not getting enough to compensate yourself either. And it kind of ticks away a little bit at the inside of you. Like, what's wrong? You're not listening. You are more valuable than this. So keep that thought in mind, because we're going to touch a little bit more on that later. People don't buy time, degrees, and certificates. So guess what? Oh my God, I can attest to this too. So in my undergrad, I push. I had to get all high B's and all A's. I had to make the honor rolls, which I did all the time. I had to graduate magna cum laude, which I did. I was inducted to the honorary Psi Chi of psychology, right? Because I thought people were going to be like, wow, that's good. Let's hire this girl. So then I go to get my master's at Springfield College. Same thing. Graduated magna cum laude. And I can honestly tell you, in all the years that I've applied for jobs, and all of the various forms of communication back and forth with professional and personal people, nobody's ever asked me what my GPA is. And even on my resume that has said graduated magna cum laude from 2 colleges, nobody's ever talked about it. Skim right over it. It's not a sticking point. Okay? You do those things because you do those things for you, but people are not buying that. This is what they're really buying. Can somebody say that out loud?
Solutions, relief, growth, transformation, and results.
Yes. Yes. Now, if you were a client coming to me and you wanted to have, I'll stick with my line. I won't go into my clinical line right now, but I'll go into my art background line. And you wanted me to create an original piece of artwork for you. What would you be looking for the most?
Results.
Results. Okay. And I think it's wonderful. Yes, results, but I'm solving a problem, aren't I? Lisa, I want you to design, I'm going to make something up, a huge parrot, and I want you to be able to create a mural of that in my sun porch. And it has to be ABC colors. Okay. So I'm solving a problem. I'm able to transform their space. Okay. I'm growing, but they're growing too from a psychological place because, wow, this is something they've always wanted to do. And now they can physically see it and appreciate it. So there's a mutual growth going on. And am I giving them a little bit of a relief that it's finally done for them and they finally can see something beautiful that they'll appreciate? Yes. Yeah. I love this more than anything. This true story. This is my friend Russ. You can see his background. He came from corporate America. Him and his wife are artists. Now, his wife actually is a legit artist as far as, and I don't mean to undermine Russ at all, but she makes a living as a folk artist and has been doing it for years and years. That is her sole income. She does puzzles. I can't even tell you how much she produces, which is very fortunate for an artist. Russ, on the other hand, he likes to dabble. He has no intention of selling anything, really. He has no intention of expanding his art career. He just likes to do it. They each rent a studio in the old mills. And of course, these lovely, beautiful buildings have open studios, usually twice a year, so that all the craftsmen, artists, etc., can sell their wares. So talk about perceive and receive. He created a perception for people to receive that sold him more paintings and more wares than anybody in that entire weekend. He created a story. It was true. He did go to Europe. He did paint in Europe, but he kind of really took it to his advantage to draw people in. Perception, right? Value. Was he valuing himself in his art? Yeah. Was he underestimating himself? No, not in this slide and not in real either. So legit, he had all this going on. The write-up was very, very cool that he had, and it was the whole outside of the wall. You couldn't walk by it without seeing it. And of course, the music blaring. And sure enough, like I said, they wanted to know who this guy is. Who is this guy that does all this stuff? And he changed his name. Perception creates value long before clients experience it. End of his story, right? So he took his name and he just added the la in front of it. I love the saying, the belief in your ability to succeed in specific situations is the definition of self-efficacy. I talked a little bit earlier about confidence versus competence. Can you be very successful if you're competent with little self-esteem? Little confidence? What do you think? No. Okay. Can you be very successful if you're confident but have maybe medium competence? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The confidence, right, when you walk up to somebody is what sells. You don't want to come across and become a phony where you're super confident, sell a good deal, and then you have very low competence to back it up. But moderate competence, I know my stuff. I know how to stand here and talk in front of you. I've put together this presentation. I can back it up with my book that I sold, continue to sell, right? So I have moderate, if not high levels of competence. Okay. But confidence is key. And that sometimes hold a lot of professionals back. And going back to when I was teaching young adults how to enter the professional world, I would have to teach them something simple as a handshake. So confidence is also in your body language, not just the external handshake like that, but how are you standing? How is your voice? Are you giving eye contact? And again, this goes back to perception, how we receive and perceive others and how they receive and perceive us. So everything ties in. So we just talked about that. So this was a topic that I sort of toyed with about putting in because A, it does fall under the psychology department. B, I often don't like people to think that they have to diagnose themselves with something like this, okay? C, it is something that I don't like labels. It's something that people can get beyond with the right skills. And sometimes when we label, like I had somebody say that I have imposter syndrome, and I'm like, well, why do you know that you have imposter syndrome? Can you give me a little bit more information? What indicators do you have? And they'll start rambling off a list, and I'm like, okay, how does it feel when you give yourself a label? And they're like, well, of course it doesn't feel good. And I'm like, okay, so what about the first thing would be not label it, just identify maybe that you have some similar effects or symptoms of it, and then focus more on skills to shift it. Okay. It is true that high achievers can, not all, high achievers can have that feeling, sometimes more than others. It really is dependent. But the key thing, when success isn't internalized, each new challenge or opportunity feels like starting from zero. So think about that. We talked about externals and internals. When you are going through your day and when you're going through your businesses and when you're have a goal and you want to reach it and you get there, and then you have another goal and you want to reach it and you get there, it's all wonderful. However, are we taking time to, first of all, say thank you that we reached all of our goals and have gratitude for it, but are we taking time to reflect and let that settle in? Wow, I just did that. Does anybody say that? I just did that. So that's one of the core reasons why high achievers can have imposter syndrome, because they don't allow themselves to fully inner praise themselves. I've learned to do that a lot. So I'm a competitive triathlete, and when I finish a race, doesn't matter what I place. It's irrelevant. I just am so happy that I finished. And when I get my medal, I don't take it off until the next day. Well, I don't sleep with it, but we go to restaurants after to celebrate, whatever. I wear it everywhere because I did that. I did that. So take a little note about that because it's really important to acknowledge yourself and be aware of that fact, that word awareness again. Here's another reason why, a couple reasons why we could underestimate ourselves. So I gave you that story when I started out in a career as art, didn't I? When I was painting murals. I created an emotional safety blanket, albeit subconsciously, that I'm only going to charge this much because then I know the client will pay for it and that'll be great. However, that never felt good because it really was creating this emotional safety blanket that, hey, I can't step outside of my comfort zone and charge what I really feel I should be charging. So think about that, because sometimes a lot of behaviors are unconscious. That's why it's really good to go into awareness. Go back to, again, what am I aware of? So the next one refers to a person's tendency to avoid situations. And I just talked about comfort zone. Sometimes we will avoid valuing ourselves because it feels uncomfortable. I have a young adult that I'm working with right now. He's in the market for a job. He just finished trade school, graduated top of his class. What's uncomfortable for him is introductions. Once the introduction is done, he's on a roll and they start talking. But for him to go in to a strange place, extend his hand, nice firm handshake, look somebody in the eye and say, "Hi, my name is," very uncomfortable for him, like extremely, to the point where sometimes he'll avoid going in. So one of the things that I say all the time to my clients, can you be comfortable with being uncomfortable? It's not a bad thing. We just make it bigger than what it really is. I'm just so uncomfortable. But how are you going to grow through anything if you're not uncomfortable? Remember we talked about being clumsy before? So walk in, introduce yourself, and even if you stutter for a minute to say your name, being a little clumsy, it's okay, you did it. That's the only way we get through it. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be a little clumsy. It's okay to be a little awkward. Because if we stick with that safety zone, comfort zone, are we ever growing? No. We minimize our risk taking. We work harder for less. I already testified to that, right? And a duality triggers a low level of self-esteem and anxiety. And I'll circle back to duality in a minute. Decision making. So here is one of your first coping tools, easy, practical tool that you can immediately start. So when we stay in ambivalence, we are creating a low stress level for ourselves, even on a conscious level. Should I? Shouldn't I? And the famous non-answers that I've quoted, I don't know, maybe. Every single one of my clients, I don't know, I think I drive them crazy sometimes because the minute I hear one of the non-answers, maybe, I don't know, I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Maybe. What are you telling me? Is that yes? Is that no? Is that I will? Is that I won't? I don't know. I'm confused. Can you give me more information? And so when we learn to be more concrete with our decisions. Just make the darn decision. Because guess what? If you make it and you don't like it, can you make another choice and another decision? Absolutely. But just make it. And so a lot of professionals, we are sort of hesitant to move forward in a direction. So I was very hesitant when I wrote this book and then started publicizing it, social medias, etc. I kind of felt like, do I really want to expose myself to everybody? Once I made the decision, I felt better, and then I moved forward. Don't use non-answers, basically is the message of this. In your life and in the brain. The brain is like, okay, I know I need to do this, but I'll get to it later. That's a form of putting things off, isn't it? That's a low-level form of anxiety. So the more concrete you are with yourself and your decision-making, do you think that your client can pick up on that? And isn't that confidence? That in itself is confidence. Joe, can you do this and that? My answer, no, actually, I can't do that. but if that's what you want, I can refer you to somebody that can. Okay, can you do this and this? I can, and this is how I will do it. I can, I can't. So when we are in ambivalence, we are here, incongruence, okay? Our heart and our head not connecting, okay? Our heart may be like, I really want to do this. Our mind might be like, nope, I'm a little scared to do this. So paying attention, being aware of what you're aware of, okay, is going to help us to move through that and connect more with our heart and our head, as opposed to our heart and our ego, which are two different things. I like to use the acronym for ego, edge goodness out. That's the monkey mind up here, okay, that goes blah, 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 and says fear, 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 and no, 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 okay? The ego literally activates the sympathetic nervous system. Fight, flight, and freeze. And it keeps you going. And it wants to keep you going. So we need to learn to find a balance and an equilibrium, congruence, the connection from the heart to the mind, not the ego. So the ego is fear-based, the heart is love-based. From there, everything is possible. That's where you find the calm clarity. That's where you find joy, confidence, creativity, etc. We want to try to go there as quickly as we can. And I'm going to teach you a little bit why and how. Okay? So easy and daily practical tools. R. But believe me, as I started doing this PowerPoint, I thought there's a bazillion other R words I could put in there, but I stuck with these. So reframing words and the negative thoughts you say to yourself. I'm going to have some audience participation, please. What if a potential client turns you down? What is a negative thought that you would automatically pop into your head? Anybody?
I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough.
No money.
No money. Okay. How about a client informs you he thinks your price is too high? Something that we are very, very much talking about. What would you say?
I have to go lower.
I have to go lower? And what about a pre-established client no longer wants your services, but been doing service with him for 2 years. What's up with that? We personalize things, don't we? Yep. So we're going to figure out how to work through that. Reset quickly if you find yourself feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or doubting yourself. But before I continue, we can go back to those same scenarios and we could reframe them. And actually, let's do that. Let's go backwards. Why not? Okay. A potential client turns you down. Let's reframe that thought process. What can you think to yourself? And it doesn't even have to be in front of him. It could be after when you walk away. What can you think to yourself after that negative thought? I'm not good enough. What could you say now?
They might not have been the type of client that I need to work with.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that because remember we talked about connection? Oh, so I would say something like, thank you for redirecting me in the path of the right client that is coming my way. Okay, let's reframe. A client informs you he thinks your price is too high. Let's reframe it to something positive.
They aren't the clientele that you're actively working.
Yes. So I really like that one, right? Because it keeps it very neutral. You know, neutral's great. I talk about that in my book, The Neutral Zone from the prefrontal cortex. We want to go there. It only knows facts and logic. So you can create logic for yourself instead of emotionality, right? Oh, then that's not really the client I'm looking for. There are plenty other people out there that will pay for this price. That's it. And the last one, a pre-established client no longer wants your services.
The problem has changed.
Oh, I like that. Their problem has changed. I love that.
So
Yeah, very good. And doesn't that all feel better than that other stuff that we told ourselves that most of the time is a lie? So when I work with clients, there is no end time, really, because everybody is completely different in their therapeutic process. However, I could be seeing a new kid maybe for about 6 months, and then all of a sudden the parents will shift him over, and sometimes it's the drive. It's too much because now they're in sports, and they really can't take the extra 45 minutes to get there. They need to go someplace closer, so it's more convenient for the schedule. So I just go with the flow with that, and I just honor that process. And one of the things I always say to every single client that's a healthy discharge, the door is always open. Invite them back if they want to come back. Resetting basically starts from and is the actual process of reframing first, because it resets your central nervous system. Your central nervous system, when it's in that negative stuff, again, fight, flight, or freeze, right? When we go to the parasympathetic and we start talking about facts, logic, reframing, we now have a sense of empowerment. It shifts our brain, it shifts our energy, and now we can come up with creative solutions because we're in calm clarity. In calm clarity, you can find everything, all your answers. One thing that I do want to talk about is you never have to justify yourself. So, if a client says your prices are too high, you don't have to justify why you're charging that, because if you're coming from your truth and if you're valuing your work, isn't that all there is? If a client says, I think I need to end our relationship, you don't have to justify trying to keep them. You can let them go. Okay? Because whenever you're standing in your truth, everybody benefits mutually, even though they may not know that. You do. And you can simply say 1 or 2 lines that come from calm clarity. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but please know the door is always open. And you don't have to justify yourself because that comes from fear. Value yourself first. Trust yourself. We've probably touched base on that in every form since I started this presentation. Curiosity. I wonder if that might work, or I wonder how that works. That goes up here to the prefrontal cortex. Again, you're giving it something to solve. You're creating a low stressor to create learning. Okay? So when you go into the prefrontal cortex, all it wants is logics and solutions. Go there quickly. Go there often. Reframe, you reset. And then you'll be able to go to the next phase or stage of what you're working on. Facts. I love facts. Okay? Just the facts is so helpful. It is so helpful. Geez, that guy cut me off. I can sit there in the emotionality and the reactivity of it for a while. Or I can take that hit of emotion because it's normal and natural, and then I can move on. Isn't that interesting that this guy cut me off? Now, how do we reframe that in a positive way? Because that has happened probably to everybody on the face of this earth. Somebody cuts you off, right? So once you get through the emotional hit and you say, isn't that interesting that guy cut me off? That's a reframing. But what can you add in that really pumps that up?
Maybe they're having a bad day.
Maybe they're having a bad day, and thank you that I am safe. Thank you that I am safe. Right there. Doesn't that make your heart sing? Now you've totally shifted it. Okay, so stick to the facts. So another thing that I love is how flexible can we be? That is, I've learned, is super crucial in my day-to-day life. And I juggle a lot of things every day, as I'm sure everybody else does. So I may have my list of priorities and certain tasks I have to finish. So when I say priorities, that's more my clinical practice, my clinical work, my other professional endeavors like being an author, speaking, being a guest on podcasts, etc. But I also train, and I also have personal endeavors that I go after that are fun. So when you take all that, I can have individual goals for each of them. However, I stay flexible because I am listening and being aware of what I'm aware of with my body, mind, and spirit. So, for example, I may have to run and pick up some groceries. And ironically, my ego, always thinks it can do more in a day. At the end of a 16-hour day, my ego says, oh, just go into the grocery store and get your milk and your eggs. And my body's saying, oh my God, I'm tired already. It's been 16 hours. Can I go home? And so immediately I listen to my heart. So now it's not the ego, it's now connecting to my mind, which are two different things. And I'm like, no, I'm honoring myself. I'm going home. I'm tired. I'm not going to die if I don't have milk or eggs the next day. I'm going to live. It's going to be okay. So that has a lot to do with the heart, ego, mind congruence that we were talking about. And being flexible with your process is very important. I talked about this before. Are we prideful of what we do accomplish? And if I can't get to that today, it's okay. I'll get to it tomorrow because I'll be more refreshed. I'll be more refreshed and I'll be ready to go tomorrow. So being flexible is so important. And our attitude, we keep talking about this through this whole PowerPoint presentation, right? The reframing. Our attitude is everything. It's going to take you a long way, long way. I swear, attitude is probably about 99.8%, 99.9% of life. Everything else can be going on around you, externals, people, places, things, a situation. It's really your attitude. So when we move forward with what we want to create in our business and our professional and personal lives, it's your attitude. What are you aware of? What you are aware of. The key factor of it is don't take anything personally around us, because don't we internalize and personalize everything? But that's not coming from the heart. It's coming from the ego. So don't take anything personally. They don't want my business anymore. My prices are too high. Don't take anything personally. It's okay. And that's a nice mantra you could say to yourself all the time. It's okay. Because if you say it's okay, the brain is going to be like, it's a fact. It's okay. I'm okay. It's a fact. I'm okay. This is huge in my clinical practice, in my coaching. It's huge in my day-to-day life. Self-care, self-love will make you a very strong, confident, and build on your competence as a professional and even in your personal life. So I call these daily self-care, self-love almost like the roots of the tree in comparison. The roots of the tree are its strength. It doesn't come from the trunk like a lot of people think. It comes from the roots. When it's strong and nice and thick and planted in the earth, the storms can come and go, but it will still be there. And you can also use the analogy of a building. It's only as strong as its foundation, no matter how tall you make it. So our self-care, self-love, how do I go inside? How do I take care of myself first? Many people, first thing in the morning, actually, they sleep. Here's the phone right by their ear. Okay? Can't live without it. And then they give all of their energies away to everybody else. Do you know it lets out electromagnetic waves? Every single piece of technology. So that means it's vibrating into you. Which is why when people watch scary movies at night, they might have nightmares or toss and turn a lot. They have taken on the resonance of that energy. So if that's true, can you create positive, uplifting energy for yourself? And the way to do that is, can you be with yourself? Are you busy doing all the time that you forget to be? When you be, you can listen to those little messages that say, you know what? I think this client might really like that. I'm going to try this today with them. Whenever I want to come up with different ideas, I go into sort of a meditative state. It's not even that long. But as soon as I still everything, boom, 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 get these little pictures and these little slight messages that say, do this, Lisa. And it always works because I'm listening to my intuition. Be grateful for everything. And if you can't be grateful for everything, be grateful for one thing or three things in the morning or in the PM. Why? Gratitude creates more gratitude. And if you're in that state, is the universe going to give you more gratitude? Of course it is. More things to be grateful for. And the other thing that you want to do is set yourself up the night before. Because sometimes, I'll give you a funny example. If we don't set ourselves up for the night before, we can often wake up a little disjointed and scattered. So as a triathlete, whether I'm swimming, biking, running, or doing maybe 2 in a row, without a doubt, every single piece of my gear is laid out. My water bottles are set. My nutrition is set. My clothing is out. Everything is out. And so my brain now knows, because I've already told it, when you get up in the morning, this is what you're doing. And so it flows. It flows. I don't have to be, where's this, where that? There's only been a couple times in all the years I've been competing where I woke up, well, I don't really know what sport I want to do today. Do you know, I walked around the house for an hour trying to figure out which one to do. And then when I finally made a decision, I get to my starting point, I forgot a major piece of gear. So you want your brain to work for you in a very positive way. 3 quick priorities, that's it. And then stay flexible. So these are pretty lovely because aren't you introducing something to your prefrontal cortex that it can solve for you? It's kind of, we were talking about AI before I got up here to present to you. It's kind of like AI. You input something and it's going to speed back information to you. However, if you're not detailed about it, it's just going to give you generalized information. You can use your brain like AI. What is my next right move? And then be more specific. Say for me, if I'm in my clinical practice, what is my next right move for this particular client today? And then I just introduce that in my brain. And by the time I get into my clinical practice and see that person, I know what to do. It just happens. So these are allowing your prefrontal cortex to work for you. And you're also in calm clarity because it's solving it for you. It's quite wonderful. Can I be patient as I create the space for growth and new opportunities? It's a question. Of course I can. So that one was easily solved. Am I allowing myself enough stillness to hear my inner voice? That would be what we were just talking about, self-care, self-love. So often, ask yourself questions because we just let things happen all day long and we never stop to challenge ourselves. So be aware of what you're aware of. That goes back. This is one that was a big one. Can I let go of the need to control every outcome and trust the things unfold in right timing? Can you if you are more grounded? Yeah. That's why we do self-care, self-love practices. Because the better you feel grounded in who you are and that you can find that inner peace, that when you get out into the world and you start interacting with people, you are more confident and you're just going to trust yourself more. That no matter what happens, it's for the embetterment of yourself and the other person. This is a clip. This is a clip when I did a presentation for UConn at the main campus and stores through the advertising production team. And I wanted to throw it in to show you, kind of like La Russo, remember, our artist, that you can create an image that is coming from your confidence that also triggers your competence level. It can be all in one. And to take risk. Like, I literally made it a full sort of performance piece in the beginning. I had music that was crescendoing to the point where I was there, but I put on cuffs and the headpiece and the cape, and I took a risk. But I felt confident in what I was doing because there was one reason I did it. I wanted to get people's attention, because what I had to say, I feel, is very important. And just to wrap it up, so these are all the services that I offer. And I want to say before we go that, again, this has been such an honor. Thank you again, Bill, for having me here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Feel free to come on up, ask me any questions. I am here for you. I have services available for you, such as personal and professional coaching. And I am a speaker, and would love if anybody has a podcast to be considered to be a guest on it. But again, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.